We're forging tools and weapons to battle the flames of a fiery dragon. Let's learn how to play Flame and Forge in this episode of Little Big Thumbs. If you love family-friendly cooperative games with just a bit of strategic crunch, we've got a game to share with you today. Flame and Forge is a collaborative publication from Vesuvius Media and Brueh Games. The game is for 1 to 4 players, lasts approximately 30 to 45 minutes, and is intended for ages 14 and up. But don't be fooled by that age recommendation. This is a game that kids with some board gaming experience can absolutely enjoy. We'll share some quick thoughts at the end of this video on playing this one with younger adventure seekers in just a few minutes. So let's grab and sharpen our axes and put on our most comfortable battle boots as we learn how to set up and play Flame and Forge. Setting up Flame and Forge involves creating the game's landscape with the dragon and its elevated castle spaces at the top of this modular board. The 3 territories are the Outskirts, Valley, and Wasteland, each made up of the same arrangement of 7 tiles. Each scenario uses 1 diamond-shaped dragon tile. For this intro scenario, it will take 12 hits to defeat the dragon. 3 item cards will always be available from the market, and the library board is also placed nearby with the advanced research tokens above the board, to hopefully be collected by our heroes later in the game. Shuffle all the 2-point monster cards, and on top of those, we'll add 3 1-point monsters for each player in the game. And now, it's Dragon Deck time. We'll take all the dragon cards without a number in the top right corner and add in the scenario-specific cards. We're placing these scenario cards on top of the pile, but other scenarios might require a bit of shuffling. Now let's put that dragon deck to work. We're going to reveal 3 cards, 1 for each territory. These will tell us where the starting monsters and fire tokens are placed. And let's take a moment to truly appreciate the sheer chunk of these monster tokens. Whenever a new monster comes out, we'll draw the top monster card and place it near the territory that it's occupying. Now here's an important bit of info. If a tile winds up with 3 fire tokens on it, that tile is scorched. And that's bad news for our dwarves. Flip the tile over, showing the charred ruins of that building. If 7 tiles wind up scorched, the game immediately ends and the dragon wins. Our last deck of cards to prep is the event deck. Event cards have a letter in the upper left corner, and the ones marked with an S are our starter cards, which are included in every scenario. Extra cards will be added depending on the needs of the scenario. Now that the general setup is complete, it's time to get each player ready to rumble. Place the 7 standard dwarves around the campfire on our player board, and the 5 class dwarves are kept to the side. The heart token is set at 7 health points. We'll place the 3 book tokens at level 1 of each library track, and finally, we'll shuffle our 7 starting challenge cards into a face-down stack next to our player board. At this point, everything is ready for some fiery fun. So, let's move things along and learn the basic turn structure of how to play Flame and Forge. The goal of Flame and Forge is to defeat the dragon. We'll do that if, as a team, our total score is greater than the score that the dragon has. However, if the dragon scorches 7 territory tiles before that, the dragon immediately wins. Each player turn involves the following steps. Step 1. Resolve the active event card. Step 2. Draw a new event card. Step 3. Place a dwarf. And Step 4. Check for the end of the game. Let's break that down a little bit further. In this intro scenario, there are no event cards face up, which means we would be skipping this first phase of the first turn. But in future turns, we may be adding more fire to our tiles, dropping a gem onto a location, or, if it's included in the scenario, moving the minecart. In phase 2, we simply draw a new event card. In this step, we'll flip the top card from the event deck and cover the main event portion of the previous active card. Only the forged gem icon in the bottom left corner should be visible. Just remember, no further action is taken with this newly revealed event card. It only impacts us at the start of the next player's turn. Now it's time for the meat of the turn, our main action. In this phase, we choose one of two options: regroup or raid the city. To regroup, we will move a dwarf from around the campfire and place it to the bottom left corner of our player board. It's worth noting that if a player's health is at 0, then they must select regroup as their main action. If the placed dwarf has been previously upgraded to a class dwarf, also activate its special ability as part of the regroup action. We'll now collect the benefit of the space our dwarf lands on, as well as every visible space to the right of our newly placed hero. Regrouping is a great way to heal, gather gems, or otherwise prepare for a bigger move on a future turn. Speaking of those bigger moves, if we're ready for a bit more adventure as part of our main action, we can instead choose to raid the city. Making this choice as a main action means moving a dwarf from around the campfire into the flames and fierce monsters waiting for us on those territory tiles. There are a few rules for placing a dwarf in this way. The destination tile must be either one of the lower 4 tiles in the outskirts, but only if that player has no other dwarves on the board. If this doesn't apply, the placed dwarf must be moved onto a tile 1 row above a previously placed hero, so long as it's adjacently connected and has an open space available. Just like with the regroup action, our dwarves will always be placed in the leftmost spot available on a tile. Basically, we're always moving forwards, never sideways and never backwards. These heroes are trying to make their way across the board and eventually get all the way to the dragon. Now, it's possible that there's no legal place to place one of our dwarves, or there are no more dwarves sitting around the campfire. And if this is the case, the active player will be retreating. That means pulling all the dwarves back from their other spaces and gathered back around the campfire. Retreating does not count as a main or a bonus action, which means that after we've retreated, we can still take any available actions. Let's turn our attention back to these territory tiles. Each tile will grant us a few perks, and some placements will be a bit riskier than others. We might forge a new item for a challenge deck, gain some gems, recover some health, retire a card from our challenge deck, make progress on one of the library tracks, or challenge one of the monsters occupying our city tiles. However, if our dwarf is placed on a tile with a fire token, that player takes 1 point of damage per fire token, and those tokens are then returned to the supply. Let's take a look at how we carry out the forge, retire, research, and challenge sub-actions that are a part of raiding the city. One of the most important actions in the game is to forge a new item card. If we don't do this frequently enough, we're going to make the game much harder to win. There are always 3 face-up item cards in the market, and we'll be able to add one of those to our challenge discard pile when we activate a forge. Each card has a gem cost in the upper left corner. Return those gems from our stash to the supply, and then place that card into our discard pile. Aside from gaining a new card, there are some key benefits to taking the forge action. For each gem spent on forging, we can discard 1 event card showing a matching gem in the lower left corner. And this is super important to keep on top of, because the more events that are stacked, the more potential devastation the dragon is going to wreak on our tiles. If there are ever 7 or more face-up event cards, the dragon just straight up drops 3 fire and scorches a tile. And if there was a monster on that scorched tile, the dragon scores that monster for its listed points. And don't forget, 7 scorched tiles means game over for us. Discarded events are returned to the bottom of the event draw pile. As an extra bonus, we'll also earn 1 point of health for every discarded event card, up to our maximum of 7 health. So now we know about forging new items, but as we get more of those stronger cards added to our challenge deck, we'll probably want to start removing some of the ones we started with, which is where the retire action comes in handy. When we retire, we get to remove 1 card from our challenge deck and place it under the right side of our player board for extra points at the end of the game. And once that's done, we'll shuffle all of the remaining cards into a fresh challenge deck. Retiring a challenge card will make our deck more efficient when we're battling monsters, and eventually, the dragon itself. Next up, we're taking our dwarves to the library with a research action. Let's talk about it. When we take a research action, we'll do one or both of the following in any order. Number 1, exchange gems. The bottom of the library board shows the 3 options for exchanging gems. A player can make any one of these exchanges, regardless of which track they're planning to advance on. Red gems are harder to come by because they're worth 1 point each at the end of the game. So don't sleep on making those gem exchanges when we take the research action. The other thing we can do with a research action is to advance on a research track. To do this, spend the gem depicted on the left side of the track we're moving up on, and then move that player's book token up and gain that space's reward. These rewards can help us upgrade a dwarf to a class dwarf, give us a one-time forge action at a discount, or let us recover some health when our dwarves retreat back around the campfire. If a player's book token reaches the top of a research track, they will get to look at the top 3 advanced research tokens in the appropriate stack, pick one to keep, and then place the others at the bottom of the token stack. Players can only have one of these advanced research tokens at any given time. And they grant us special perks when they're flipped face down. Even if we defeat the dragon in battle, we have to have more points than that fiery fiend in order to win the game, and moving up that research track is a great way to earn those points. Lastly, let's look at how to resolve a challenge. When raiding the city, if a dwarf is placed on a tile that also has a monster on it, the active player can choose to challenge that monster. Otherwise, a challenge can be started with a monster that's further away by placing your dwarf on a tile with that challenge icon. Our goal in a challenge is to score enough successes equal to the health of the targeted monster. To find these successes, we'll tell the story of the battle by flipping over cards from our challenge deck one at a time, resolving each icon from left to right. Our starting deck is mostly comprised of these 3 icons. The challenge icon equals a success. The red kablooey icon means we lose 1 health point, and the yellow box with a red plus symbol equals a battle frenzy. Those battle frenzy icons can be a real wrinkle for us. Each one of these icons forces us to draw another card, with no option to escape the battle until each battle frenzy icon is resolved. And those new cards might bring even more battle frenzy icons, resulting in a chaotic roller coaster of action, making our goal of overcoming that monster that much harder. The challenge is a success if we draw enough success icons to meet or exceed the monster's hit points. However, if our own health drops to 0 or we're unable to fulfill a battle frenzy icon, then the encounter is lost. And don't forget, if the battle is not going our way, we can always decide to duck out of the fight, so long as there are no outstanding battle frenzy icons to resolve. However, if we do succeed, the conquered monster card is added to that player's challenge discard pile to be used in future challenges. Basically, we've convinced that monster to join our side of the fight. But another monster is always waiting to leap into the scene as we draw and resolve a new dragon card. And if we manage to make it all the way across the board and climb up onto the final space in the dragon's abode, we'll have the opportunity to challenge the dragon itself. Timing this final challenge just right will give us the best chance of winning the game. If we succeed with a challenge action, some of the icons on our cards will feature a little sand timer on them. These work just like the main action icons we discussed earlier, they just happen a little bit later. So let's recap. We want to forge new items to strengthen our deck and reduce the number of event cards, retire less efficient cards from our challenge deck, research to move up the library tracks to earn points and gain bonuses, and challenge monsters, or the dragon, to gain even more points and epic challenge cards. Games of Flame and Forge can end in one of the following ways. If the dragon manages to flip 7 tiles to their scorched side, the dragon immediately wins the game. Our dwarven heroes will need to bandage their wounds, gather back at the campfire, and try again in the next game. However, if we do manage to outplay the dragon in a challenge, we'll compare our collective score as a team and see if we did better than the dragon. The dragon scores 3 points per scorched tile, plus the point value of the monsters consumed by the fire of that scorching. Multiply that total by the number of players in the game, and that's how we find the dragon's score. For the player scores, each person will add up the victory points in their challenge deck, add in the bonus points for retiring cards, along with the highest points reached on each research track. Every red gem is also worth 1 point. And every player will have one final chance to exchange as many gems as they want to try to get more red gems in their stash. Whichever player conquered the dragon in a challenge will also earn the victory points depicted on that diamond-shaped tile. And remember, this is a cooperative game. One player may wind up scoring better than the others, but it's our total score that determines whether we won or lost the game. And in a nutshell, that is how to play Flame and Forge. Now, because we are little big thumbs, we'd like to take a moment to discuss how this game works for both big players and little players. So let's do that right now. One of the best parts of the Flame and Forge experience is that there's no text pretty much anywhere in this game that players need to read. That means that once we understand what each icon means, it's relatively easy to stay connected to the whole game experience. I'm not gonna lie, this is not an easy game to win, and there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. But since we're all working together and there's no hidden information, it's not difficult to lend a hand to new or younger players to make sure they're keeping up with the flow of the overall experience. My older daughter is currently 10 years old, and with a little bit of guidance from the older players at the table, she was able to keep up with this game just fine. So if you're looking for a mildly crunchy cooperative game that has the potential to stay relevant for years to come, Flame and Forge is definitely worth a look. At the time of this recording, the game is just about to launch on Kickstarter, so we'll be sure to include important links to the game and that campaign in the description of this video. If you have any questions about this tutorial or anything about the game, let us know in the comments down below, and a special thanks to Vesuvius Media for sponsoring this video. So, I think that's it. So, we'll be back again soon, and until then, whether you've got little players or big players, make sure that you keep playing games that make your thumbs go way up. Bye for now.